Welcome to the Divine Gossip Podcast. I am your host, Mackenzie Foster. I'm a psychic medium, witch, tarot reader, spiritual mentor, paranormal investigator, and honestly, I'm just a really curious woman who loves diving deep into how this universe works. I started this podcast to share with you what I'm learning about intuition, the unseen world, healing, magic, and most importantly, becoming the most authentic and honest version of myself. Not the perfect one, but the real one. And if you're down for that too, grab your journal, keep an open-minded heart, and let's get into today's video. Hello, and welcome back to the Divine Gossip Podcast. I am so happy you're here. You heard all my things in the intro. I'm glad you found me, or I'm glad you're back. Today I have another incredible guest with me. I was just telling her I've been binging and reading all about her things and what she does and learning about her. I watched her TED Talk the other night. She is very, very intelligent and experienced, and I'm very, very excited. Of course, I'm very excited to have her on. So, Dr. Aumatma, please say I said that right.
You did. You got it.
Perfect. Simmons. She is a double board certified naturopathic endocrinologist who discovered that her greatest breakthrough came not from speaking louder, but from learning to listen deeper. I'm obsessed. After nearly 20 years in practice, she evolved from a fertility expert to an intuitive leadership guide. So now she teaches high achievers to trust the wisdom that their bodies already hold. She founded the Holistic Fertility Institutes. She supports couples to create families through natural approaches and has trained hundreds of doctors in fertility specialization. She's a best-selling author of Fertility Secrets: What Your Doctor Didn't Tell You About Baby Making, host of the award-winning podcast Egg Meets Sperm, and co-founder of Madre Fertility, the world's first smart fertility analysis app. And she does quite literally a million other things that are very, very impressive. So I'm very excited to talk to you. Thank you for being here.
For having me, Mackenzie. It's great to be here.
It is so great to be here with you. As I said, I want to just mention, she's been featured on ABC, Fox, CBS, KTLA, Mind, Body, Green, and The Bump. And she has a TED Talk, if you didn't hear me say that earlier. So she's got her thing down, and I'm so ready to learn from you. I have like some questions I've been dying to ask you. I wrote these questions a few days ago, so if you guys see me reading to my right, it's because I wrote them down. But before we get into those questions, I want more background on like who you are behind the titles and all the impressive things that you do. I want to know I mean, obviously you're very educated, so I guess start me there. Like, why did you get into fertility in the first place? Like the science of it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So fertility is the interesting story. I started with being a naturopathic doctor. I had already been in practice for about 5 years at that time. And my then husband was like, let's have a baby. And he got really obsessed with this idea of having a kid. And every time he would mention babies, my uterus would literally scream, God, no. And I was like, what is going on? And uh, I really, like, every time I heard my inner voice, like, it felt like a shock because here I was, like, already married to this person that I had committed to for life. And my body's like, fuck no. And I hope that's okay to say on this podcast.
Please, I cuss way too
So,
much. You're fine.
okay, great. So he like kind of sent me into a tailspin. And my first task was really asking myself, do I want to have children? Is that why I'm getting this no? And it became really evident like, yes, I want children. And then the question was like, well, not with him or not right now. And it was like, not with him. And that's when I was like, oh crap, this is the wake up call because I already said yes. I committed, right? And I really came out of that with realizing that if my intuitive wisdom was correct and it's what I needed to be doing and not doing, then it meant getting a divorce, finding the right person, eventually getting married again, and then having a child. And I was like, oh crap, it's taken me 10 years to get to this point. I'm already in my early 30s. I don't have 10 years. And that's when I started digging into fertility. And I was like, I'm a naturopathic doctor. Like, I can do something about this. And I started talking to my colleagues and like there back in that day, this is 15 years ago, there were four naturopathic fertility specialists and literally all of them were like, "Oh, you should freeze your eggs and go do IVF." And I was like, "Wait, what? You guys are naturopathic doctors. I'm very confused what's happening right now." And so they were like kind of supportive and telling people that the conventional stuff that was available was it. So that to me turned into like, okay, I need to like research, I need to figure out something else because the fact that I have learned that at 35 my fertility is going to be screwed and that's it. And then pair that with like your options are IVF and egg freezing. And I was just like, no, that I'm not okay with this. I'm not good with this option. So I need a different option. And I like all of the research, kind of all of the rabbit holes that I went down after that were just literally like, how do I get a different response from the universe that gives me enough confidence in my own body to say, peace out, bro. We're not doing this anymore. And it took me about 9 months to get there. Like I was researching for 9 months, literally like locked in a basement, trying to figure out what else I could do. And when I came out of that, I basically was like, we're done. Our relationship's over. Let's get a divorce. We ended that. 3 weeks later, I met my now husband. So it did not take me 10 years, thank God. But it took us like almost 6 years to get to the point where we were ready to have a child and all of that. So um, it worked out in my personal life, but in the process of that, I just uncovered that like no one else was sharing what our bodies are truly capable of. B, it was just frustrating for me that I had learned all of these things, even in naturopathic school, that were kind of what the conventional world was saying at the time, which is your eggs are crap after 35, your fertility drops off a cliff, you should do IVF, you should do egg freezing, just like all of the conventional stuff that I was like, well, there's some stuff missing here and why isn't anyone else talking about it? So that's really how I got into fertility and then just have like it where I'm 15 years deep and I still to this day like talk about it because there are still very few voices in the space that are like, I believe in your body. I believe in your inner wisdom. I believe in what you as a woman are here to do. And if your calling is to have a baby, let's figure out what the best path is for you, but let's not default to it's going to be egg freezing, egg donors, IVF, whatever.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good, but it's also important to realize that there's so much more.
Wow, that's so interesting how, like, the first thing that comes to my head when you were telling that story, like, I that's so crazy cool how when you started the moment you started like honoring yourself and choosing your own path and honoring your body and not listening to like the traditional way that's like a cookie cutter response to every single woman is like the moment you started, you broke free from what was holding you back, and then you immediately found what was for you, which is your husband now. Like, the fact that that happened so fast is so, like, meant to be. That's exactly, I think that's like in women, like, I see this in women all the time within my own clients and within myself too, in my own like health journey, that we get so scared to like do things for ourselves, but the moment we do, that's when literally it all falls into place. I think that's so beautiful.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I think that our inner wisdom is kind of guiding the ship. And when we choose, when we say yes, right? Like we just have to say open and be like, yes, I receive. Thank you so much. And when we're able to do that, it really like everything clicks into place in a different way. And it has always surprised me how easily things do appear, right? It's like people talk about all this like manifestation stuff. Um, and I think the core of it is like, are you in alignment with what your spirit is here to do, to become, to express? And if you're in that alignment, the quote unquote manifestation just is happening all the time. It's not like something you
Yes.
actively need to go out and do.
Yes, literally. That's, oh my God. Yes. I think so many people need to hear that. And that's why I wanted to like have you on too, was because your path is so empowering, and you've truly done that. Like you are living proof that when you follow and honor your body as a woman and just as yourself, not even just your body, but just yourself, and you push past that fear of, not even push past, but just like, it's not even pushing, it's like relaxing deeper into yourself, and then look what happens. Like, and that leads me to my first question. Like, many, you say, like, many high achieving women are trained to override their bodies because that's literally what we've been trained to do as women in general. Like pushing harder, thinking harder, analyzing more. When did you realize that this habit was actually disconnecting people from their deepest intelligence, which is within? When did that like start to click for you in your research in those 9 months? Or
It's been I would say like working with the women that I've been working with for fertility, and how similar to my story, I would say for the women that were coming to me that were like, I intuitively know that you can help me. Like you are the person that's going to help me. And they were more convinced than I was. I'm looking at their labs. I'm like, I don't know, this seems crazy. And they were just like, no, absolutely not. Like, I am crystal clear. This is my intuition. And I'd be like, okay, well, let's try it and let's see what happens. And like some of the miracles that I have seen come out of that, just like people that I was just like, no, this is never going to work. Like, science does not stand behind what we're about to do here. And like that has happened so many times that I am truly humbled. And like I started saying, like, just come to me if that's your intuition, because a lot of women will look at that and be like, what is she talking about? But a lot of the high achievers are like trying to like intellectualize, or what's your practice and how much does it cost, and like the nitty gritty details, and they're like trying to go through a checklist of things instead of like just being like, is this the truth? Like, is this what I need to be doing? And for every single woman that has had that like intuition path and surrendered to it, they've all gotten pregnant, regardless of what the science says. And so that to me was really humbling. And I started seeing that pattern really early on because my first client, I actually, uh, she was 33 years old. She had had three miscarriages. And like, I listened to her story. I was like crying with her. And I was like, I don't know if I can help. Like, I'm brand new. I've literally never done this before. This sounds really complex. Like, you've had three losses. You've been through three IVF cycles that have not worked. And I don't know if I know what I need to know to be able to support you. And I like flat out told her that. And and it was a Friday afternoon and I was like, call me back on Monday if you feel like this is still something you want to do. And she calls me on Monday morning. She was my first call. And she was like, I don't know what it is, but I'm really clear that it's you. And I was like, what do you mean? How did you get to that? And she was like, I don't know. I just kept meditating on it and this is it. This is my path. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. Like, I'm not going to, like, like, there's no ill will. Like, I just want you to try it. And I was like, okay. So she was like my first training ground of being like surrendering to another woman's wisdom and being like, okay, I'm here. I'm going to support. I'm going to do what I know to do from the science side, but we're trusting your inner wisdom and we're going to meet there and then just figure it out. And and it's been a really interesting experience. So I would say like that journey has really taught me to realize like every woman has this wisdom and so many of them are overpowering it in the sense of like when our body is giving us signs and symptoms that we think are like, oh, I have this insane menstrual pain or cramps or PMS, right? All these things that we write off as medical, which, yes, there are medical things that are happening. But at the same time, we also are, our body is trying to tell us what is, something is out of alignment. And so often, when we are able to drop in and listen to that wisdom and say, oh, like this is the thing that my intuition is saying is out of alignment. How do I adjust it? And then all of a sudden, your symptom goes away. And you're like, wait, how does that happen? Right? Like I adjusted this thing at work, and now all of a sudden, I don't have PMS or I don't have whatever the thing was. So I've like been connecting these pieces of like how our body is talking to us. And I didn't know it at the time, but my ex-husband and I were in a relationship for almost 7 years before we got married. And the entire relationship I had had the worst menstrual pains ever. My cycles were out of whack. My like I had a migraine that was from an injury, but that migraine literally did not go away for almost a year and a half. It like a constant like 15 out of 10 pain. And people were like, I can't believe you were in that much pain. Like you were still smiling. And I was like, yeah, I just got used to it because I didn't know anything different. Like the universe literally banged me upside my head and I still was like, I'm staying in this relationship. And I kid you not, like all of that stuff cleared away when we got the divorce. And I was like, holy shit. So now, like looking back at it, I'm like, man, the universe, my body, like literally everything was telling me, not him.
I
And yet,
relate to that
on
so
paper,
hard. I literally
he
relate
was
to
like
that
the
so
perfect person
hard.
on.
Yeah, yeah. I went through a breakup like 2 years ago, and when I was with him, I gained like 70 pounds out of nowhere. I freaking, like, I was diagnosed with PCOS at 15, and I've kind of learned how to reverse those symptoms, like, all naturally, really. And that's been a journey. But when I was with him, it was like everything was so inflamed. My whole body was screaming at me. The moment I broke up with him, I just like I dropped like 40 pounds. I'm like glowing now. And I'm with a new boy now too, and I've none of that's happening with him. It's crazy. So I just wanted to say I totally relate to that. It's so cool how wise our bodies are.
Yeah, and I feel like we often override it. Like
Hmm.
for me, it was the on paper thing. Like I did every checklist. I had done a checklist before he came into my life, and when we met, I was like, check, 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 check. Like literally check all the boxes. And it was just the wrong person. And it took me so long to just wake up and be like, no, this is not it. And similar, so I had a client who uh this is probably about 5 years ago now, and she was 37. Her her hormones were just tanked, like bottom of the barrel. She had almost zero hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, literally like everything across the board. She looked menopausal. All of her skin was sagging, and she was with this guy. She's been with this guy for like 10 years. They were not married, but they were trying to have a baby for almost 6 years at that point. And she went through the process, and she was like, no, but on paper, like everything's perfect, and I want to have a child with him, and blah, 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 blah. And like part of it was fear. Like, if I leave this guy, I'm probably not going to find anyone else. I'm not going to be able to have the child that I really want. And during the time together, he like basically just up and left and like moved to Florida without her knowing. And she was like, what is happening? Like, he just got up and left. And the funny thing was, like, she wasn't upset about it. She wasn't depressed. She wasn't sad. She literally, like, within a week was like, hallelujah, I feel amazing. And we had been working on her hormones and all of that. And, like, literally everything clicks into place. She's like, I'm having amazing periods. My skin is younger. I don't need Botox anymore. Like, all of the things. And within a year, she like messaged me and she's like, there are three guys in my life that want to donate, quote unquote, donate their sperm for me to have a child with them. And I was like,
Yep.
holy shit. And she
Exactly.
was like, and I don't care if I was a single mom. Like, I'm good with that. So I just need to pick a guy. And I was like,
Yes.
that's
Give me-
amazing.
I love that. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna open this door to see if the connection can get better. Give me like 2 secs. One. Okay, sorry. We have a gym next to us, and that door is open, and my stepdad's working out, so I can hear him. And then this is like this office door is closed, and this was an upload. I was just like, I need to close that door, open this one. So we're back anyway. Okay, I
Yeah,
am
no,
obsessed with all those stories. I relate to that so hard. It's insane what happens when women choose themselves. And I'm also like so curious when you say drop into the wisdom of our bodies. And it reminds me of like what you say with leading with silence. I really want to know what you mean by that and like why you coined that phrase. I think I'm very interested. Can you tell us more about that?
yeah. So I started noticing that when I was in rooms like boardrooms essentially, it was usually men, and I would be like the quiet female, right? Like just sitting there, and I would beat myself up about it because like, oh, I'm not speaking up and I'm too nervous and all of this stuff. Like I was doing a lot of like self reflection that wasn't positive. And one day I was sitting there and like started just realizing like actually I do speak up when I need to, and I'm completely okay being quiet if I'm not judging myself. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try this thing out. Like, what does it look like if I don't judge myself for not talking? And I had already been doing a lot of like cycle syncing and stuff like that. So realizing that I was naturally more outspoken in the parts of my cycle that were high in estrogen and was a little bit less outwardly during my menstrual cycle, during the luteal phase. And this is a normal thing, right? Like, this is what our bodies do. So, as I had been training in that, I was like, wait, I actually do speak up. And the moments where I'm speaking up are those times where I'm like really with it with my hormones. So I was like, okay, why don't I like start charting all of this? And what I realized was the moments of silence where I didn't need to speak up, nor did I feel like it. I was actually getting a lot of intuition. I just needed to like write it all down, right? So, like having this practice of being in spaces, whether they were on Zoom or on in person, just feeling like, okay, during the times of my menstrual cycle, I have this like really strong intuition. And if I honor that wisdom, if I honor that intuition that's coming through, then we're actually having like massive breakthroughs on the flip side when I share it. But I don't feel like sharing it when I'm in that space. So let's write this shit down. So this is how it started. I was like, okay, I'm gonna start writing it all down. And like dropping that like judgment of needing to be loud, needing to speak up, which is what everyone was telling me, right? All of my coaches are like, well, just speak up, make yourself heard, be known. And I would go to these conferences and things like that. And I was just like, I don't feel it. Like, I don't want to do this. It's taking so much out of me to like force myself to show up in that way. I started realizing that I could literally go to a conference where there are 500 people and not talk to a single person. And people would just be coming up to me, talking to me without me efforting to do it. And I was like, oh, look at that. Like the right person just appeared, or the right connection that was like, hey, why don't you come speak at our conference or whatever it is. Like the right people were just like orienting towards me on their own without me like needing to put myself in that place. And I was like, oh, this is really fascinating. Really cool.
Wait,
So
that
I
makes
just
so
kept,
much sense. That's like really clicking for me right now. That's crazy. I'm putting so much together in my brain right now of like, I, I've always been taught, I've been cycle syncing for like years now, but I've always been taught that like, you know, when you're ovulating or in your follicular phase, that's more like outward, like a masculine type of energy is easier to like go into. And then your luteal and menstrual is like the winter inward phase. And I was always told by people, and still am to this day, that when I'm in my luteal phase or menstrual phase, I'm quieter, I'm less energetic, like, why aren't you happier? Why aren't you, talking more? Why aren't you blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I don't want to, I don't need to. I feel like I can just attract whatever I want just by sitting here because that's what feminine energy is. You're just like automatically magnetic. You don't need to try so hard, you know? And, that's actually, that's genius. That's really helpful.
Good. I'm glad because I literally was like I would be on the phone with my now husband and I'd be like, I'm at this conference and I don't want to talk to you. And he's like, get off this phone and go meet somebody. And I was like, no, I just don't want to. And it has just freed up so much of my energy to be like, I don't need to do that. But what I realized was all I need to do is be in sync with where my hormones are. And if I can follow that rhythm and not try to like override it or try to like be something that I'm not in during that phase of my cycle, then things were flowing way easier. And I was like, oh, I'm efforting so much less.
Yeah.
And when I'm speaking up, people listen because they're like, oh, she's been silent for like 3 weeks. What does she have to say now? And I would just be like sharing whatever and like, oh my God, oh, that's brilliant. Let's do that. And it was just like such a different way that I was like, wait, so all these coaches are out here telling me to like do more, show up more, be the spoken person, and the opposite is actually happening where it feels less strenuous on my body, on my energy. Like I feel less negativity about it. I'm just gonna keep doing that. And and then it translated. So as I was starting Madre Fertility, which is a startup, and we're kind of 3 years into it, 4 years into it, uh, and my business partner is a guy who like is like, "You're great, but what is the cycle stuff?" And I'm like, "Okay, you don't need to worry about the cycle stuff. I'll take care of that. All you need to know is that if you need some shit done, just let me know what it is in advance and I'll get it done." And like literally I'll have a list from him of like, here are all the things that need to happen. And when I'm in the phase where I can like fire through all of my to-do list stuff, it's done. And it'll be like in a day, right? And he's like, how did you do all of this in one day? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's my super hormones. And then like other points in my cycle, I'm like, don't bother me with this right now. I don't feel like it. This is not the
Yeah,
right part of my cycle.
literally.
So
How do
he's just
you I have a question about that. Like, so I feel like I'm a very high achieving person and I tend to be harder on myself and put a lot of pressure on myself. And when it comes to that phase of my cycle where I'm naturally a little bit more low energy. I need to move slower. I'm not, oh, geez, sorry, I kicked something. I'm naturally like not just super high energy, which is totally normal with what your hormones are doing if you're in that four phase of your cycle part of your life. And even when I'm not, like maybe when I am ovulating, I'm ovulating right now. A few days ago, or not a few days ago, like the day before yesterday, my apps told me I was starting to ovulate and I was in a shitty ass mood. And I was like, what the hell's going on? So I'm wondering, like, how do you, and I'm in those moments where I am not like my high, bubbly, like high productive self, I get really hard on myself because I know I'm not maybe that fun to be around when I'm fighting that. I guess the key there is like if you are feeling kind of low, don't fight it, just feel it. Like there's no need to perform. You know what I mean? Like how do you manage like not right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, I totally know what you're saying. And I've been there like so many times because it's either like you feel your own pressure that you're putting on yourself to like be the bubbly personality and like show up your full self, or that pressure is externalized, right? Like it's coming from your boss or whatever, like project deadlines or whatever it is that is coming into your space of like, you need to do this today. And I think that what I've realized with time is that it takes less effort for me to hear the pressure and say, what happens if I don't get this done right now? And I get it. I'm in the unique space of like having my own businesses and I don't answer to anybody, right? Like I get that that is a privilege. But I think that a lot of the women that I've coached are in like high C-suite positions, but they're still reporting to somebody. So in those times, I think it's still okay for us to stand our ground and say, I could do this right now. I will concede and say, yes, I could get it done today. But it's going to be like a C minus versus I could do this in 3 days when I'm going to be like at the peak of my hormones and it's going to be an A plus plus. What do you prefer? Right. And like I do that for myself sometimes of like, is this the thing that I really want to be doing? And is it worth it for me to like get through it at a C minus or wait till it's an A plus plus? And like that's how I weigh out my stuff, right? Like if it's if it's an email that needs to get responded to, and I'm like, a C minus is gonna be okay. As much as I would like to do this as an A, I can do it at a C, and I'm okay with it. Then I'll get it done. Versus the things that are like just so important to have my best energy, I'm gonna wait on those.
Yeah.
So we change our guiding principle for rather than the deadlines being the guiding effort is like, is it okay if I wait 3 days or 5 days, whatever it is, rather than push myself to do this not at my best? And you like you can have those conversations with a boss, you can have those conversations with whoever, be like, listen, I always want to do an A plus plus job, but I know that if I do this today, it's not going to be an A plus plus. And I know that the reason for it is not, I'm not making an excuse. I'm showing up fully, but my energy is better spent on doing tasks that are responding to emails
Yeah.
and
It's really
looking
about
at
like, yeah, yeah. It's really about like communicating where you're at and not putting pressure on yourself to be something you're not, just like you said. And that happens with like you can do that with deadlines, with responsibilities. But even like in my own life, I feel this pressure on myself to even when I go hang out with a friend or my boyfriend, or I'm supposed to be like this bubbly, happy person who's like having so much fun all the time. And it's just like, guys, I'm gonna be real. I don't want to do all that today. I want to lay on the couch, and that's all I have to give, and that's that. And you can hang out with me or you can not. That's up to you. But and I think
right.
it's just like laying like your boundaries, I guess, or as another way to put it, you know?
Yeah, and it comes out of that awareness of where you are in your cycle, knowing what's optimal for you as an individual during each part of your cycle. And that can vary from person to person. So there's like general guidelines, but I think it's important to realize that different people are different in terms of how they show up at each point in their cycle. So having some time with reflection and having some time with where is my energy best spent, and then creating that as your guideline for boundaries and saying like, no, that kind of task is best done in this part of my cycle and I'll get it done. Don't worry, it's going to get done. I will just do it when I'm going to be my best at it. And that creates like it lifts the pressure and then instead becomes about this is where I am most aligned right now. And I'm not going to force myself to overpower my natural alignment.
Mhm.
And like we live in a world where we are constantly negating that, right? Like I grew up with parents who were like, "Oh, you're in pain? I don't give a shit. Go to school." And like that from a very early age became override, override, override. And like I could be in pain. I was in like 10 out of 10 pain 3 days of the month, every single month. Like I could be doubled over in pain, and their response was, "Nope, go to school." And it was it was kind of it was important because it helped me realize what it looks like when we learn to override our own bodies and we learn to override that intuition. And like what created that back in the day was lots of trauma and like the history that went into creating that space and not having the support around me to feel like I was held and supported. So now like I can look back at that time period and be like, "Oh, I get it. Like I have been through all of this shit so that I can be the person that still stands up and is like, "No, listen to your body. Like do not let anybody override what your inner wisdom is saying." And we can't get to that inner wisdom unless we have time in silence. So
Absolutely.
that like the lead with silence is really like be in that silence for yourself because we're so tuned out a lot of the times like Netflix and alcohol and whatever it is flavor of the week that is bringing us out of our center of gravity.
So, what are your
And
practices that help you connect with your silence? I mean, there's obvious ones like meditation. I love journaling. I love like get sitting outside in nature and just sitting in my own energy. And I need to do all of that more. We all do, but I'm obviously guessing you still have a practice to this day that helps you tune into that your inner self. So, what is that for you?
absolutely. Absolutely. For me, it's definitely meditation that has been a practice since I was very young. And I pair that with understanding that our mental, emotional, and physical are all interconnected. And when we take care of our physical, which is so easy to forget, but there's a couple of like body practices that as a doctor we talk about all the time. But those body practices actually ground me into silence deeper. So my meditation practice used to be 3 hours a day. Now it's like 15 to 20 minutes a day. I know, right? Yes, I needed 3 hours a day to feel like I was okay. This is back when I was in medical school, but I would like literally go into classes and just like soak it all in rather than seeing what my classmates were doing, which was like draft, like notes. Oh my God, I gotta get it all. And like I would just sit there and be like, okay, I'm soaking it in. And they were like, I don't understand. You don't study. You
That's
don't take notes. And, and I was like, I know, but I meditate 3 hours a day. Like that's how I get through medical school. So
that's
it
awesome.
was it was yeah, it was necessary at the time, but I can't like now my life doesn't allow for 3 hours a day. There's no way. So I found like having that grounding in your physical is just as important as the spiritual. So, like working out is a big part of what I do every day. And then, like sleep. And there's a lot of research actually on going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time that allows your body to have a different level of nervous system regulation or safety, as I call it in the TED Talk, to show up more fully. So when you can like kind of sync to the circadian rhythm and create a level of circadian safety, then your infradian rhythm, your menstrual cycle, can regulate easier. So that's a really big practice. And then body scanning, which is sort of like meditation, but it's like you can do it in 5 minutes if you have to. And you're just scanning head to toe, head to toe, head to toe, and you're observing. So you're not doing anything. You're just like doing a body scan. And 5 minutes once a day, 5 minutes twice a day can really help drop into your nervous system and regulate that so that it's easier to step into silence and alignment when you want.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree. I always find meditation hits so much harder after I work out because I also work out every day and I love sweating. I feel like it sweats out all the negativity and bullshit and also is good for my body. But when I like get all my physical like angst out, then I just can drop in easier. So I love that. And body scanning is incredible. That's nice to hear that you used to meditate 3 hours a day and now your life obviously don't have time for 3 hours anymore. I feel like I talk to people all the time that are like, I don't have time to meditate, I don't have time. It can literally be 5 minutes and that does so much for you.
It like the body scan, I wasn't, I like blew my own mind when I was researching for the TED Talk, and I was like, I can't believe this technique has this much research, and it's like 40% decrease of stress from just doing this like 5 minute scan. And
Wow.
I was like, I've been sleeping on this. Like we need to put that in our lives.
Yes,
So yeah,
for sure.
I feel like the simpler the better. The and people like my clients do not have an hour a day or even 30 minutes. They're going to be like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, you're making us do all this stuff, you know? So the 5 minutes works. And I'm like, if you don't have 5 minutes, start with 30 seconds. I don't care. Like, just start where you're at, and then you can increase it over time. But if you're trying to get to an hour and you can barely sit still for 2 minutes, like, you're just going to feel like you're wasting time. And it almost works against you. So start with the lowest bar possible, right? And then try
Yeah.
to get to that 5 minutes where all the research is. And then if you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, maybe I can do 5 minutes 3 times a day. Great. Add to it. But
Yeah.
start with the basic so that you can start feeling the benefits, and then that just feeds on itself, right? Like people are like, oh, but I can't. Like, just start with the 5 minutes. You come back in a week and you're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Great. Keep doing it. Keep doing that, right? And
I love
you're
that.
way more motivated to do it because it was just 5 minutes and you feel some benefit out of it.
Yeah, for sure. And before we go, I wanted to touch on this one last thing. So we talked about the connection with ourselves, how to tune into that inner world, why that's important for our hormones physically, but also just like how we show up in the world. I wanted to touch on like your thoughts on our womb space as women. I feel like that's something I tend to neglect in my spiritual practice and also just in my all my practices. I just enrolled in this course called Movement Alchemy from this girl I'm obsessed with, and she's been talking recently about like doing hip opener exercises and more yoga and more physical movement that's slow and like feminine that connects you to your womb and releases like stored trauma in the body. I know that's a lot, but I really want to hear your thoughts on like why it's important to incorporate like connecting to our womb space and maybe even like physically to what that can do for us as women.
Oh, absolutely. So there's absolutely, I agree. Connecting with our womb space is really great to do through hip openers. For us, we like teach people a fertility massage so that they're getting like energy and blood flow and circulation into the womb space. And then I would say the connection for me is that our wisdom is in the womb space. And especially when it comes to fertility, but that's the same energy center that houses abundance, that houses safety. Like those things are all interconnected. So I say this all the time. I'm like, whether you're trying to create a human baby or a business baby or getting your business to be successful, whatever, like if it has to do with reproduction or creation of any sort, you have to access that womb energy. And dropping into that womb space is so freeing for us. And it really like it creates the openness there to be able to receive, right? So people, I don't know if you've heard this, but like if we think about a container, right? Our body as the container, the womb is the receiver. So if that womb is blocked off, or if energy never flows into the womb space, the womb is not ready to receive, whether that's a baby, a business, $1 million, whatever. If your womb energy is cut off, which for us, like most of us here, the energy stops at our heads. It's not even going down into our heart, let alone the womb, right? So all of our energy is blocked up in our brains that we've forgotten how to step into that energy of receiving. And if we can't receive, then we're not like your container can be infinitely great. You're not receiving what is meant for you to receive. So it is, I think it's like, I know I got a little woo, but it is the the energy has to flow for your womb to be open and receptive to whatever it is that you're trying to call into your life.
Oh my God, I'm so obsessed with that. I love that. I'm so excited to start making that more of an intentional practice for myself. I feel like I'm on the journey now of connecting and grounding back into my body after experiencing trauma and just disconnection. And I'm so excited to just cry and slow down and all the beautiful things that need to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those of you like listening in that are like, ooh, what are these practices? Honestly, like hip circles, just like kind of doing the little wavy thing with uh our lower halves is opening, right? So you don't have to do a ton of fancy stuff if you don't want to. And just like put on your favorite music and get into the hips. You're not swaying up here, you're swaying from your hips. And that hip sway is getting your energy to flow into that room. So yeah, like do that as much as you
I love
can. And it's like fun. Most women are like, what? Go and dance? Yeah, dance more. That's your prescription. Go and dance.
Thank you so much for all of this incredible wisdom. Have, I feel like I could ask you a million more questions, so I would love to have you on again for real when hopefully we have better connection. I don't know if it's bad for you, but I like could barely see you the whole time, so I'm sorry guys if the connection was like shit, but I'm trying, okay?
Well, the good thing is Riverside is recording locally, so I think we'll get good video and audio.
I think so. I hope so. But again, thank you so much for answering all my questions, for sharing your wisdom. I'm so excited for people to find you and check you out even more and learn from you even more. I'm so glad you have a podcast. Oh my God. Where can people find you? What do you have going on? Is there anything else you want to share? All that jazz.
Sure, yeah. So the podcast is called Egg Meet Sperm, And we're on everywhere podcasts are. And then Instagram is the place that I hang out the most. So I'm at Holistic Fertility Doctor on Instagram. Feel free to drop me a message. And probably the like for those of you that are in that space of like wanting to figure out your hormones or get pregnant or plan for conception or families or whatever, madrefertility.com is the place that can help you do that.
Thank you so much. I will link all of that below, all of her things. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you
And
for this great conversation.
yay, I'm so glad you thought it was great. I want to thank the listeners for listening. I will see you in the outro, and I think that's all I have to share. Yeah, if you're not watching on YouTube, definitely start watching on YouTube. Okay, that's my last thing. Okay, bye everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into today's Divine Gossip episode. I hope you enjoyed it, or maybe even learned something new. If you did, it would mean the absolute world to me if you left a rating and review wherever you're listening. It helps other beautiful souls like yourself find this podcast, find me, and join the DG community. If you have any spiritual questions for me, any haunted stories you want my take on, any topic or guest suggestions, if you want to be a guest yourself, anything and everything, you can fill out the Divine Gossip Google form linked in the description of this episode so I can hear from you, because you are literally a part of what I create here. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one.